So, it's been a week since Game of Thrones officially ended, and I gave it some time to feel it out and think it out, and it still doesn't feel like it's ended because what we actually got felt more like cheap fan fiction. Well, not cheap, very expensive fan fiction. That's actually part of why it's so sad, and honestly, why I feel kind of numb. Why I feel like I have no actual closure. Even though it was bad, I still don't feel like I have closure. Because all of the quality, all of the effort, all of the love and dedication from the cast and the crew was just thrown in the trash by the writers. Most of my gripes were probably addressed in my last video. It was very long, very detailed. I had about 13 pages of just notes. And really, I don't know what else I can say that hasn't been said already too much. But I'll just conclude with a conversation that I actually had with someone. So,
what do you think of the Game of Thrones finale, by the way?
awful, just terrible. It couldn't have been worse, really. Probably worse than The Last Jedi. Pretty pissed about that one, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way they destroyed the characters in this was just so similar to the way they destroyed Luke Skywalker in the last Star Wars.
I actually didn't get to see the last one. I've waited to see it. So I thought I was following Game of Thrones so close. I was excited to see how it was going to all end. But the last episode, man, that was the worst of them all.
Yeah, you're not missing much with the last Star Wars there. And Game of Thrones, at this point, I just feel nothing. It's like I was watching fan fiction. It's not even, doesn't even feel real what actually happened. It feels like the show was canceled in like season 7, and then this is like someone's attempt to make it better. It looked great. It all looks great. It's a shame that the writing couldn't pull together, and nothing even happened.
Yeah, the only thing that happened was Khaleesi got killed, basically. Did you hear that they filmed different endings though?
Yeah, yeah. It's I also heard that they were just saying that to throw people off because of there were leaks, but I don't know.
Oh, okay, that's too bad.
Yeah, I don't know if it's true or if they were messing with us or what's going on. Like, I think they were saying they had multiple endings for Jon.
Oh, okay.
But it sucked so much anyway, man. Like, he did nothing this season except kill Dany. That's about it.
Yeah. Right. Then go to jail and then get sent off to die in the north.
And it doesn't even make sense. Like, is he running away from the Night's Watch? Is he just going to help them settle, even though that was exactly the place? Like, they were trying to get past the wall before the White Walkers showed up. So, and like, what do the Unsullied care what happens to Jon? Like, they don't even know what the Night's Watch is. They would have killed Tyrion and Jon. They were executing surrendered soldiers 5 minutes before. Why would they change their minds? Tyrion gets no punishment, so why wouldn't Jon get to come back after the Unsullied are gone?
Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
And did you notice Jon runs into Grey Worm executing people, and then he goes to tell Dany about it, and Grey Worm is already there when Jon arrives?
Yeah, good point. Contradictory.
So much contradictions, man. Like, do you know about the Kinda Forgot meme?
No.
Oh, okay. It's part of like the inside the episode stuff after the episode where the showrunners explain why they did certain things.
Yeah.
And so in episode 4, where the Iron Fleet like triple shot snipes that dragon out of the sky from around a corner, and the writers just go, well, she kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet, even though they mentioned them earlier in that episode. So characters just conveniently forget things out of nowhere just to advance the plot. So I mean, that's been memed to death. They kind of forgot a lot of things this season. It makes no sense. It's like so many time skips. Just
I see.
By the way, there were like 10 ships in that episode, and they killed a dragon, and she couldn't take them. But then in the next episode, she does one dive bomb, and she can take out literally hundreds of ships.
Convenient.
Yeah, everything is just so conveniently contrived this season. Like there's no way Jon can be pardoned after the Unsullied are gone. And like Bran didn't use any of his abilities. He was just bait. He was utterly useless this season. They did nothing with him.
Yeah.
Winter's coming meant nothing, and
right. What is that? Yeah, he sees the future, and
yeah, he implies he knows what's going to happen. Did he let Dany kill people so he could be the king? The implications are
yeah.
But they don't pull this off as like a villainous thing at all.
Right. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I don't get it, man.
Yeah.
He's just blank. They do nothing with him.
Yeah, nothing. His character really was... I expected him to probably be one of the reasons that the knight was defeated, but he was just going to sit there in his wheelchair and get killed, really. No power.
Yeah, he's just bait. Didn't do anything else. Literally has...
Couldn't he control animals? Couldn't he have defended himself with a plethora of bears from around him or something? I don't know. he's a
Yeah, he could have done anything. He can even warg into people. They never use this offensively or even defensively. He could have like made Cersei jump off a building. Anything. I thought they were gonna imply that he was the next Night King because he could warg into multiple ravens at once, sort of like, you know, the Night King controls whole armies. But nope, they just see they wrote themselves into a corner with such a powerful character. So instead of explaining the significance or like introducing limits to his powers or just doing anything, they just ignore him, and he gets to sit back and basically just gets Littlefinger killed.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, if the point is that the people who put it all on the line and like actually do the work, they end up losing everything in the end and getting blamed, and then the people who sit back on the sidelines come in after all the devastation and they reap all the rewards. Like, is that supposed to be Bran? Is that supposed to be like just Bronn? They didn't show any of this subtlety really. Bran is shown as a hero. We're led by implication to think that he planned all this or allowed all this death and destruction to happen so he could be on the throne. Is he power hungry? Does he have a specific goal in mind? What does he want? Did he warg into Daenerys to make her crazy? Attempting to stop her? Because that was kind of hinted at with when he messed with her father. I don't know if he actually did mess with him, but similar to like Hodor, he could have been inside the Mad King's head, which drove him mad, with visions of perhaps White Walkers and stuff like that. Maybe something like that happened with Daenerys, but they never even touch that. They never say, "Oh, I tried to stop her," or anything like that. It's just like the tone is just so off, and the directing is so off from any of like the implications that we can draw out of this. Like he has the memories of all the children of the forest, and so basically they're in control of Westeros now, other than the North, I guess. But what the hell does he want? We don't even know how the three-eyed raven rules. All the evidence suggests that he's evil or like at least selfish, but it's played off as a good thing in the show. They didn't capitalize on anything. Like Arya, She didn't use any of her assassin skills. She could steal faces.
Yeah, she didn't use that skill at all.
And all the characters are dumb. No one communicates or tries to combine their power or skill sets. Like, Tyrion knows where the secret entrance to the castle is, and he doesn't tell anyone. Like, why isn't there a conversation? Because they're, like, him and Arya are in the same room when they're planning a siege, which, by the way, kills people by starvation. You know, and Arya should be saying that she can disguise herself as anyone and is trained as a stealth assassin, and Tyrion should be telling people that he knows where the secret entrance is, but it's ignored by the writers because they couldn't make Jaime the only one who knows to sneak in. So it just takes you out of it because you know these characters wouldn't be making these decisions. Just cut characters and armies out whenever it's just inconvenient for them for the next scene that they want to get to.
Right. And then all the Dothraki ran in and died, and now all of a sudden they're everywhere at the end. In the last season.
And they said on the inside the episode, like, you know, when all their flaming swords went out,
yes,
they were like, this is basically the end of the Dothraki, but then they show up with at least a legion of them in the next episode, and they say, or at least in this episode, and they say in like episode 4, like, oh, we only lost half of them. What? We saw them all wiped out, and now they just show up again? Like, what is going on?
They're everywhere. Yeah. Right. Where were the other ones? Yeah. Did you sign the petition then that said it should be remade?
Yeah, I did. It's like at 1.5 million now. That's awesome. They raised it to 3 million. I don't know if it'll make it that far. It seems to be slowing down a little bit, but that's a shit ton of people.
Yeah, you see signatures every 30 seconds going on underneath it. It's funny. That's really bad.
It's just self-parody at this point. I want to take that very ending scene and put a laugh track to it and, you know, add that little Seinfeld riff into it. Like, it's just so silly. It's like a comedy sketch. It's like an SNL sketch about Game of Thrones. Like, literally. Like, who's the master of coin? Oh yeah, that greedy asshole who threatened me. Like, how is Bronn on this council? The only reason he's rich now is because Cersei gave him a kingdom, basically, to kill Tyrion, which he did without question, which he used to threaten him to extort an even bigger kingdom, the Reach and Highgarden, from Tyrion. But now Cersei's dead, so he has nothing over Tyrion. Is he still threatening to kill Tyrion? And yet Tyrion trusts him. He just acquiesces. But it's done for laughs, so that we can laugh at Bronn saying, "Oh, let's open more brothels." And then Bran comes in. He knows everything about everything. He can see through everyone's eyes. He can see anything anyone has ever done. And he goes, we need a master of whisperers. Dude, that should have been Bran's role. He becomes the new Varys, basically, to whatever king or queen. But no, they just squander everything.
Yeah.
They ruined every character. Like, even Jaime and Cersei, they just wasted Jaime's redemption completely. And they made us like Cersei in the end.
I know. They died instantly. So quick. All that lead up to them.
Yeah, they wasted all these characters. They jumped from the Night King being the big bad in one episode, erased him completely, and Cersei was the big bad for like 1.5 episodes, and then it's Daenerys is actually the big bad villain, and then in the next one it's like Grey Worm, kind of, or themselves. We are our own worst enemy kind of thing, but just all falls flat. Like, they all let Jon go away just if he goes back to his day job. What? They wanted to get stuff out of the way so they didn't have to fit it into the ending. They just kill people off. And they didn't even fit the ending into their own ending. They skipped right over Dany's death and right into the stupid meeting. Like instantly, they just skipped months. Oh, and did you notice how much of the show is just actors' faces? Like Mauler, like the YouTuber Mauler made a video where he cut out all the dialogue in this last episode, and it's an hour long of just characters walking and staring. Like the showrunners just like telling stories through actors making faces. They just think good acting is good writing. But I mean, have you ever noticed how something really important is about to happen and they'll just show the actor making this intense face and then they just cut away before anything actually happens and it all resolves off screen?
Oh, you're right. Oh, yeah, I didn't really puzzle that together, but you're right. It was like they're saving money or something.
Yeah, like when Jon tells his sisters who he really is, and then the screen just goes black. And somewhere in there, Arya has decided to separate from her family and not tell them what she's up to and just go to King's Landing with the Hound. And they just forgot about cause and effect and characters cooperating. Like, especially at the Battle of Winterfell, everyone getting absolutely swarmed. Every single character had this happen to them. They would get completely swarmed, and then it just cuts away. And then when it cuts back to them, they're fine. And it's just one zombie coming at them at a time. There's so much nonsense. Yeah.
No, I couldn't believe how they did away with such major characters like Jaime Lannister, and they just died in rubble. I'm like, oh my god! And if you look at the rubble pile, if they had literally just stepped back about 3 feet, they would have lived.
Yeah, and they're on top of the rock pile. They're buried under rubble, and then Tyrion finds them under one layer of bricks.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. If little Tyrion's midget body undug him with like 2 bricks.
Yeah, if they'd just been, a little to the side, like you said, if they sat under that dragon skull that's right there or something, they'd be fine. And they show like a same pile of bricks with a little bit of light at the top. Jaime gives up on that one, but Tyrion can climb just fine.
Yeah, you're right.
Tyrion he's so disappointing. Like, they have just neutered him for several seasons now, but, you'd think that he was going to make one final decision that shows that he's become smart again. But no, they do nothing with him. He just quits, and they keep him as a prisoner for months. For what reason? Did they have to be convinced to keep him alive so they could represent House Lannister? Did he convince them? Did someone else send them a letter? Like, how are the Unsullied so wired into what's going on with the rest of Westeros? Like, why did they set up this council? Why did they let him have a vote on who would judge him? And he was exonerated by the new king for some reason, even though Jon was punished, and Dany's forces were fine with it. They just left. The Dothraki raiders just packed up and left.
Yeah, good point.
Like, why is this council happening? How did it happen? They just skip right over it. They skip from the drama of Dany's death, which is supposed to be this huge, impactful moment, and then they're just joking around in this stupid scene. Like, literally, they just hard cut to it. They don't want to explain how they got there. They don't want to explain what happens in between, so they just are like, okay, well, we'll just go right to it. Like, I saw this meme. It was like the first 6 seasons, 7 seasons were all winding through this very complex maze and curving back on itself and going through these complicated maneuvers. And then in season 8, it just goes right towards the center of the maze and goes right through all the walls of the maze. Just goes straight, makes a beeline for it. That's what these writers did. And they have this moment of almost patting themselves on the back so hard where they're like, who's got the best story? And Bran has the best story? What? He's got such a great story that the writers he literally didn't appear once in an entire season. I think it was season 5 or something. They didn't have Bran once. He took the whole season off. Oh, but he has the best, most important story, of course, but they can't figure out anything to do with him. Is that how you elect a king? And you call him broken? Why not Bran the Three-Eyed Raven? No one even knows what the Three-Eyed Raven is. Tyrion is the only one who even bothered to ask him what happened to him. He's the only one who actually had a conversation with Bran. And of course, that occurs off screen as well. They just didn't want to explain how this would make sense, so they just hard cut from Dany's death to this silly scene where they're laughing about democracy, making jokes about frickin' their uncle, who's being very reasonable and cordial, but he's a joke. These are all written as jokes. It's exactly like what they're making Star Wars into. They're taking these dramatic, iconic characters, stripping them down to their basic stereotype, and then making into them playing it for laughs. It just seems so fake ending.
There you go. And I guess the sister didn't trust her own brother because she wanted to keep the North to herself. That was brilliant.
Yeah, he's your brother. What the hell? And Dorne just agrees to this too. Those Middle Eastern people, they've always wanted independence, and they just agreed because reasons. Have they ever even heard of Bran? And the Iron Islands, they were promised independence from Khaleesi. So, and then they just agree to be under Bran? Why?
Right, yeah.
And it was so pointless. They just do all of this just to end up right back with an absolute monarchy, just so they can... And this time around, it's actually more likely that they'll fall into civil war, because now they have to choose who the successor is among themselves, and not rely on the king to choose the next successor. But that's the reason this whole thing started in the first place, is because they all couldn't decide who the next successor should be. So they just make that even more likely going forward.
Yeah, and then Khaleesi went full-on rage mode, even though she was offended at women and children dying in multiple episodes. Then she just decides to kill all of them at once. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's the elephant in the room. We all knew Mad Queen Daenerys was coming, but they just went full cartoon villain on us. She was built up to be extremely brutal toward her enemies. But at the same time, it was always in the name of protecting women and children and slaves. Does she now view peasants and serfs any differently? And there's an equal case to be made that she would never go this full rage mode, because of her consistent nature of always wanting to protect people. She literally bought the Unsullied because they don't rape, because they don't pillage or plunder. She specifically said, in response to all wars have bloodshed, which everyone's fine with, until these last few episodes, she specifically rebuts, yes, but I'm not going to kill the innocent. I'm going to specifically buy armies that don't kill innocent people. I'm going to specifically punish only the upper classes who oppress people. And then they just throw that away and focus. They just cherry pick the parts that they think highlight her brutality. And that's a justification for going full genocidal and having no self-awareness anymore. That she was a self-aware character, and now she's just a cartoon. This change just occurs in her face, basically off screen. There's no dialogue. They just show the actress doing her emotion face, and then we never get to see her again until her little Hitler speech. Inside the episode, the writers were like, this is our favorite scene with Emilia Clarke, because she's just up on this giant dragon animatronic, because they had this thing that she was actually on top of. It was like a green screen thing, but it was part of the dragon's back. And yeah, this is their favorite scene because she's making a drama face, and that's all that they like. This is these guys' thing. They could have done this in so many better ways. She should have executed Sansa for being all manipulative and wanting independence, even though Jon, the King of the North, bent the knee. That that would have been believable. And I would have actually been on her side while at the same time understanding why Jon had to kill her. That was the complexity, the shocking part of Game of Thrones. And now they're just doing shock value for shock value. They don't, and it's black and white now. She has to go full genocidal if we want to be somewhat okay with her dying. And so that's why it falls completely flat, because we don't care about this caricature of Queen Daenerys anymore, because it's not her.
Yeah. Yeah, she just looks at the castle and has a rage moment.
And the writers even said she looks at the castle and thinks about everything they took away from her, and then she does what she does. As if that they have to say it in that vague way, because there is no connection, there's no cause and effect there. She just goes bonkers.
Yeah.
But anyway, man, I mean, we could go on for hours. I know you gotta go, but I mean, the problems are endless, dude. It's just...
Alright, man. Later.
Alright, that was pretty interesting, and we covered a lot of stuff, and then I guess I'm going to add some nitpicking and stuff that we didn't cover during that conversation. That was unplanned, but, you know, so I've got a couple other things going. Like Arya at the end of episode 5, she survives she's the only survivor of all the explosions and stuff, and Dany, was she burning her own soldiers? Because it seemed like... You know, the Dothraki ran through, and then, like, less than a minute later, she burns the city, or she burns that part of the street. But then Arya is the only survivor, and except for this horse. She gets on the horse and tries to leave, presumably is leaving the city, and then that's where the episode ends. The next time we see Arya is when she is listening to Dany's speech, and... that's back at the Red Keep. So she just abandoned this horse? What is going on? That it's just a stupid way that they wanted to end last episode, and then they just put her back at the castle that she just left, that she was trying to get away from. And then she teleports through all those soldiers next to Jon and goes, I know a killer when I see one. It's just the worst writing that you could even imagine. Jon being a Targaryen meant nothing. Nothing. Nothing beyond a hypothetical threat to Daenerys. She didn't even bring it up. All she was doing was babbling incoherently about how burning people is liberating them. Like, she's not even like, close to a rational person now. Even a selfish person, you could go to them and say, like, look, burning people alive isn't liberation. Like, how do you connect those dots for me? And she isn't able to do it. And then we skip over her death and the fallout of her death. We get like 30 seconds of that, and we just skip all that. What happens after that? How do people react? How do people even find out about it? All this drama about her burning people alive and having to kill her, and this character that we love going crazy and then getting killed by her lover. All this drama, it's just cut out. We don't see how it gets resolved. And 5 minutes later, we're joking about how she burned down brothels. We just had to kill her because she's in this dramatic moment because she's too far gone, and then we're joking about it, and then it's played for laughs because Bronn wants to rebuild the burnt down brothels, and this is actually the new administration's actual priority. It's a parody of itself at this point. These writers were so proud of themselves for looking at things from a peasant's perspective, and they just never address it again. What happened to the people of King's Landing? How do regular folk feel about the capital being burned? How did the city get rebuilt so fast? None of this is explained. It's just rebuilt immediately, and we have no idea what's going on. We have no idea why people are coming together, what the political state of anything is. They just rush right to the end. And then we get this Orwellian nightmare Bran who can see anything anyone's ever done. Every thief in the realm, he can, anything. And it's very fitting that the writers think that Bran had the best story, since they're such horrific, woefully incompetent writers. And why was Jon resurrected? It just seems like something that just happened for the sake of having him back in the story. Is there actually a will? Is there actually a God that willed him to be there for his ultimate purpose of killing Daenerys? Was it the Red God who served Melisandre, who resurrected Jon? Because that God is the God of fire, whom would be manifest in dragons. These things are just glossed over completely. And what do we have at the end of the show? Nothing's changed. Literally nothing's changed. All of the armies are probably still healthy. No one's dying of starvation. King's Landing seems like it's going on just as it was before. Why are they still using a ruined city? By the way, in that Council of Lords scene, there's a bunch of healthy trees all around the dragon pit. They couldn't even CGI out the trees in a city that has been burned to the ground. And don't tell me the flames just didn't spread there. But what do we have at the end here? Nothing is changed. Everything's all under basically the same families. Everything's going on the same. We still have kings. In fact, it's worse because the same problems are going to repeat. The same problems of succession are made worse by the fact that the Council of Lords will be choosing next time. That increases the chances that there's going to be a civil war in the future. But we don't... They try to have this middle ground where they sort of go towards democracy, but they still have the monarchy. And it actually makes less sense than either just staying with the monarchy or advancing to democracy. There's a reason this didn't happen in monarchies. There's a reason they were typically inherited through the bloodline, because it's more stable that way, because there's less civil war that way in real history. But they went back to doing what they always did. What a shame. It's like there was no point to this series at all. So, yeah, I'm going to keep doing media analysis. This is definitely a cultural touchstone. It'll come up again. Definitely going to get into some Star Wars stuff. Yeah, let me know if you guys like this kind of content. I usually do science videos. If people would prefer, I'll switch over to my media channel. It's called Star Wars Cafe. It's got almost 1,000 subscribers, but I only have one video over there, and it was a Star Wars Phantom edit of the prequels, and that was up for, I think I got like 600,000 views on that thing, almost 1,000 subscribers, and then they took it down, so I'm gonna have to challenge that. But anyway, let me know your thoughts, all like 2 viewers I have, and have a good day.